So right now we are going to create a Spring Boot application, and we are going to create a REST controller class and a service class, and we are going to have a simple example just to demonstrate the mock-in concept and the integration test concept. And yeah, so first of all we need to create Spring Boot application. We are going to go here to the modules and use this integrated Spring initializer inside IntelliJ. You can go and do it from the official website, but we are going to do it from here. We are going to call that Spring Boot testing, for example. We are going to use Java 8 and Maven, and the most important thing is the Spring Web, and this would be sufficient. But we are going to add a Spring Boot dev tool that is going to restart the server when we do a change, and let's call this like mock-in and integration. So let's remove that. So yeah, we have here a Spring Boot application, and as I told, we are going to create like a controller and a service also. Let's see if we have this running. So let's make sure that our Spring Boot application is running correctly, and then let's create the controller, REST controller, that are going to use a service that's going to have a very simple function. So here we have the service starting, we have the port 8080 is already in use. That's a problem because the server is already started and I have these ports used. Okay, so right now we are going to create two packages. One package is going to be the controller, and I'm going to create a class inside it which called greeting controller, and is going to have like a controller here. We're going to import this from Spring, of course, and we are going to have here a request mapping. And request mapping is very general. It's going to accept the get request, post request, delete, put, everything. It's very general. And we are going to have here response body, and it's going to be a string, and it's going to be called greeting. And here we are going to return something. For example, right now let's build our service. So this is going to be like a service that's called greeting service. Yes, so this one. Let's just call it service to be short, and this one should be used here to call, for example, a greet function. And let's use for dependency injection, we are going to use the constructor, so this one. So let's create this class here. It's going to be inside the service, and this one is going to have a service annotation, of course, service annotation. And let's import the annotation, and here we are going to have a simple function. So it's going to return a string, is called greet. Let's remove 1t, and this is going to return, for example, hello world. So like this. So we have right now everything completed. Let's make a simple unit test for that. So we are going to use this technique to create our test, and let's use this one, unit 5, to create it should a greet, for example. Very simple test. And what we want actually is just to test if this function return hello world. This would be very simple, like assert equals, and let's import the assertion first. We are going to import it from Jupyter, and this guy, there is misspelled, so it's assert equals, yes, this one, and it's going to be a hello world, and we need an instance actually for a greeting service. So yes, and we are going to have like a setup here where we are going to make an instance of this one like greeting, and we need to use the function that greet. It's not greeting but greet, and we don't need to prepare anything. We are going to do this when here, so it's all in one line. So let's run this, and so if this hello world, so we have this exact message here, hello world, if they match, the tests would pass, so it passed. So in this example our service is very simple. So what we are going to do now is to test this REST controller, and to use this endpoint especially. And this is not a simple function, this is like an endpoint, so that we are going to hit to test if it's working using the HTTP request, but we are going to use the Spring Boot way. So let's create a test for this one. So we are going to test right now the web layer. So for that we need to use this annotation web test, and we could also specify which class we are going to test. It's going to be like our controller, so it's this one. And secondly, we need to auto wire a helper that are going to use for mocking. It's just going to help us to call the web layer, so we need to import it, and it's going to be called like that. And yeah, so let's create a test function. So it should return like a greeting message, which is hello world. So yeah, and actually we know that like our controller here is using this service. So what we are going to do first is we are not going to call this service here, but we are going to mock it. The mock is simply like making a copy from that, and is not going to be used, but we are going to tell it what it needs to return. Because actually if we use this one inside, if we call the real greeting service, we are testing two things. We are testing greeting controller and we are testing greeting service, but we just need to test the greeting controller. So we need to mock this, so because we already make a unit test for this service, so we know that this one it works. So we just want to do that, and after that we are going to make an integration test when we test all the parts of our application. So we need to test the real controller with the real greeting service to make sure that everything is working together as we expected. So let's continue testing that. So we are going to mock the service right now. For that we are going to use mock bean for that. Yes, so it's going to be private also, it's going to be the greeting service, and it's going to be called like a service for here. So we are making a copy for this one. It's not a real copy, but we are mocking this. we are having a false copy. So we need to tell it what it needs to return, because if we don't tell what the service needs to return when we call the greet service, it's going to return null. But we don't want to return null, we want to return hello world, because we know that greet function return hello world. We already tested it. So what we are going to use is when we call this service and we call greet, we should return, so we then return, what we return? Hello world. So we need to import this guy from here, and then we need to hit our endpoint, so it's mock MVC. So this is a perform, so we perform. This is all from the documentation, you can check that. And we are going to like hit our endpoint, which called greeting. And yeah, so just like that. And we are going to take this result and then make some assertion. For example, I want this result, when I call it, I want to expect, for example, that the status yes is okay. For example, this is the first thing, and I want also to check that the content like is going to be a hello world, so is going to containing, so contains string is going to be hello world. So let's import these guys here. So it's going to be from MVC. This one also we are going to import it from the matchers. And let's see the status and the get method. This guy is huge, like it's going to be the same thing here. Not this one, actually is going to be imported from this guy here, so it's get. And of course this guy throws some exceptions here, so let's test that everything is working as expected. But let's make a breakpoint to debug that everything like work as expected. And let's make also a debugger here to see if everything is working. So it starts the context of Spring Boot. So right now we are here, so we are hitting this guy. So right now we are here and we mocked that, so we expect hello world. It's working very fine. And yeah, let's go to our test and make a breakpoint here and continue. So let's see if it's working. So it did not throw any exceptions, so it's working fine. And let's check that this guy is like working as expected. So yeah, let's continue. And the test passed, so it's so beautifully, so everything passed. So right now we are not we could, for example, not mock in this and use the real integration test. And what we can do is like making an auto wire in for this guy. We are going to make a real auto wire here, and then we just need to like test everything. But we are going to use some different annotations here. We are going to test, break all the context like that. So let's get rid of it and let's just run it this time and see if we are going to load all the tests and everything is going to pass. So as we can see, we are loading all the context of Spring Boot we're not just testing the layer. And so yeah, so this is an integration test. We see how we can use the mock-in using the when. And yes, so the unit tests are very good when we test a unit, and the integration test is good when we do our unit test. And right now we need to see the interaction of all our unit tests to make sure that everything is working like perfectly with each other. And the mock-in, when we use unit tests, but we just need to focus on one class at a time, and so we use the mock-in to mock some external services. So this was the mock-in and the integration test, and thank you so much.